So guys, welcome back to Rockford Ordnance. Today we are doing a video on refinishing AK furniture. I promised you guys a video on this, and I've got a gentleman that is a member of AK Files, and I asked if anyone had some furniture that they wanted redone, and he answered saying that he had a WASR that had, you know, the stock balsa wood furniture everybody talks about, and that he'd like a set of military furniture. So I searched and I found a good deal on some, and right now, guys, let me tell you something. There used to be tons of this stuff out there. Everywhere you looked, you could pick it up dirt cheap. Well, it's getting a little harder. It's not that it's not out there, it's just harder to find, and the prices are going up. There's, you know, all this surplus is going away, from magazines to furniture to whatever. So anyways, I ordered these parts up, and I got a pretty good deal on them. I caught a sale, and we're going to refinish them and send them out. It's going to be similar to the finish we did on the Guns in the WASR video. We're going to do his set like that. It's kind of it's got a little bit of a red hue to it, but they're going to be shellac finishes as they were originally and as is intended on these rifles. And I just wanted to show you kind of the before pictures of this. We got two stocks. One's a little worse for wear than the others, but you know, no major gouges or anything, but certainly the original finish is not in the best shape. Didn't come with any hardware. They are pre-drilled, but not a big deal. No hardware, as you can see. The shellac on this one is really flaking off, but we're going to show you how to make these things absolutely stunning. These are laminate stocks, so much tougher than that balsa stuff you get. Also, we've got laminate hand guards. This is the lower hand guard. These are in pretty good shape, looks like. Yeah, they both look pretty good. One's got a little more wear than the other. These are also laminate. When it comes to Romanians, there's a couple different handguards out there. Obviously, there's the dongs that everybody's familiar with, you know, with the front vertical grip made out of wood built into it, comes off. Those are neat. And then there's a hardwood handguard, and then there's these laminates. And the laminates are probably the most sturdy of them. The dongs are laminate too, but the other ones are just a hardwood, and they're kind of light actually. It's kind of the same wood that the top hand guards are made out of, the top gas tube covers. So I'll show you these. These are in good shape. Gotta be careful with these guys. They can crack pretty easy when installing them. They're kind of light wood too. I don't know if this is beech or what. I got a feeling it is. But we're gonna, these are very similar wood actually to most Yugo wood. So we're gonna finish them up. A lot of times, you know, these always come out a different color when you refinish them compared to the laminate or the other hardwood handguard for that matter. But we're gonna make them all come out nice and even and be gorgeous. So the first step we're gonna do is clean these things up a little bit and get rid of the old finish. So come on along, and we're gonna do this together. Okay guys, so we're ready to start our project here. And the first step to it is removing the old finish. Now, we could just take some sandpaper and start going to town on these things and get rid of this old cracking shellac, but the best way to do it is with a chemical stripper. There's a few ways to do that. I've found if you're trying to get rid of paint or just about anything, this stuff, it's called Clean Strip Premium Stripper. It works really, really well. It's kind of a gel, so it clings to it, and works real good. You let it sit for a few minutes and the stuff just wipes away. Very little scraping. If anything, maybe a second coat, and whatever's on there is gone. I've used it to remove camo jobs on metal, wood, you name it. But we're going to use, this time around, we're going to use lacquer thinner. And just put them in a pan here. Make sure your pan will withstand the lacquer thinner or whatever solvent you're using. And we're going to soak these. And the lacquer thinner does a couple things. It'll take the finish off, but it'll also clean on stuff like this that's kind of just an oil finish. It'll remove the deep down dirt if you leave it soak overnight. In this case, I bet we probably only need a couple hours, but we're going to go ahead and pour this stuff in there and watch it go to town. So here we go. Anyways, you get the idea. We're gonna let it soak, and we'll come back when it's done working. So guys, it's only been about 20 minutes or so, and I just wanted to show you how quick this stuff works. We'll pull one of these out of here. Let's pull this one out. And we'll wipe it down real quick with a rag. And it dries off pretty quick. It flashes off pretty quick. But look how quick that takes everything off. I mean, look up here. I mean, all that grunge. There's still some stuff. The grunge that's in, you know, where oil sat in for years and whatnot, that's what takes a little bit of time. The shellac actually got sticky and tacky in seconds and was gone right away. I mean, with just a quick rub. So already the shellac is gone. If I wanted to, I could probably just go from here, you know, light sanding and start my refinishing. But I want these things to come out like brand new. I want all this gunk gone in here. I don't even think it's gonna take overnight. I think we're talking, you know, maybe another couple hours and we'll be set to go here. So stay tuned. Okay guys, well, it's been a couple hours and I've pulled it out of the lacquer thinner and it's dried for about 10 minutes. It dries really fast. And here's the worst one of the two. And as you can see, all that flaky finish is all gone. All we're left with is the wood. And for surplus, there's really no dents to speak of. There might be a couple little ones here and there. Here's a little tiny one. I'm gonna do another thing here and explain it. We're gonna steam out any dents that we do come across. Now it does work better on regular hardwood as opposed to laminate, but it will pull some out of laminate. Super easy. Take a wet washcloth or an old hand towel you have laying around, terry cloth though, something that'll hold water. Double it up, lay it on top of the dent, and then take your regular steam iron for ironing your clothes on high with the steam setting and put it on there and just steam it. Check it every 15-20 seconds. And it will slowly pull up any dents. It pushes the moisture into the wood, and the moisture makes those indented grains pop back out. And it works really, really well. I've done it on a ton of different stocks. The latest one I did, I think, was an NPAP stock that had a couple little dings. And even with the finish on it, it popped it out. Now, I will warn you that if you try it on some finishes, it can cloud it. Similar to a ring you'd find on a coffee table from glass sitting on it or something, it can cloud some finishes. So watch out for that. I'd test it somewhere before you did it, or you might end up refinishing it. But on the NPAP, it was totally safe. It was the standard wood that NPAPs come with, not military wood, and it popped it right out. And they were just little handling dents, and they came right out. Anyways, it took all that grime, and I mean, look, even the ends of the stock where the stuff gets ground in, everything came really, really clean. I could soak it overnight. Don't worry about it affecting the laminate. It doesn't. It has no effect on the laminate whatsoever. Some people think it might eat up the glue or something, but no, don't worry about that. You can always tell when you've got your stocks clean because you'll see no dirt. You know, a lot of times these lines get blended. It's all, especially on handguards, because of hand oils and whatnot. But when you can distinctly see the lines in the wood portion, not the red laminate, but the lighter stuff is clean, it's clean. Everything came out really good. Some of the dark stuff around the edges here were left. That's really burnt in shellac, where it's actually gotten hot enough where it burned it, and that you're not going to get off without sanding. And in the case of a gas tube cover, a handguard, or even, you know, up here on the stock, you don't want to do that, guys. You want to leave it as tight as possible to fit whatever gun you're putting it in. You know, now you may go to fit it and there's some room, you can take a little off, but I don't like to sand on those edges at all, because we want these things as tight as possible. We don't want any, you know, rattling around or anything like that, which can happen. I mean, you know, they're old stocks, they're military surplus, but most of the time they fit pretty darn tight. So I'd rather leave them that way. And the whole idea behind this process is not to remove any of the wood if possible. Granted, we're going to sand these real light, and I start with 220 and go finer from there. 220 is fine to begin with, so and we end up with steel wool. So anyhow, we're at this point. The wood is clean, the wood's ready to go. I could soak these handguards maybe a little more, and maybe I will. But really, for all intents and purposes, these things are ready to go. So the next step will be the sanding, and we'll go from there. Okay guys, so we're going to start our sanding here. And again, the point is to just smooth out what you have. It's not to remove material so much as it is just to give it a fine, nice feel. If there's some dents, like I said, large ones, we can try and steam some of them out as best we can. Smaller little dings or chips in laminate, etc., those are going to be filled in with our finish with shellac. That's one of the great things about shellac, is you can use it to fill imperfections, and then your final finish, once you buff it down, it's all even, so they really don't show. But all we're going to do is start out. I use one of these sponges, especially on the stock with curves, that better than a block. A block, you can leave flat marks here. That's much less likely to happen. You can use, if you got some rough stuff, you can start at 120, but usually I start at 220 and go from there. But we just do a light rub. I'm not pushing real hard. And again, a lot's going to depend on the condition of what you have to begin with. Now, this stuff was really pretty nice, and I'm just kind of smoothing the edges where they meet the laminate. The dark spots, when you're working on laminate, the dark orangey looking stuff, that's the glue that holds the laminates together, and the lighter is usually the wood. So there can be, you know, a slight edge to them, and you're never going to get rid of that totally, but you can just smooth it out a little bit. And that's what we're looking for, because we want a nice, clean, smooth finish. When it's all done, it'll be like glass. So we're just following the curves and not staying in one spot and just smoothing things out. And we'll do that with this and then go to the next finer and the next finer and the next finer. And it doesn't have to be a glass finish to start with. You can actually stop at when you're using shellac, you can stop at 220 and really just start your finishing there, because really the final finish smoothness is going to be the shellac itself. So we just want to make sure everything's kind of level and nice, and then we start our finishing process. Same thing goes for the handguards. We just work our way around. We're not trying to remove much wood at all. At all. Just as you see it lightening up from the sanding, that's plenty. And you want to stay away from this. You don't want to bring that down anymore. But that's what we're going to continue to do here. We're going to just sand these things down, and then we'll be on to the next step. You can tack cloth them if you want. Tack cloth is, they're 50 cents or $1, and it just removes the sanding dust. But really, just blow them off or wipe them off is fine with shellac. Again, shellac is so forgiving, you don't have to worry about it. So we're just going to continue on, and we'll show you when we're done with the sanding and ready to apply the shellac. Okay guys, so we're done sanding, and if you're going to do just a shellac finish, then obviously you would just go ahead and use shellac. But in this case, we wanted to add a little bit of color to these, and obviously that's going to depend on what country of origin you're going with, or just whatever look you want to go with. In this case, the gentleman wanted something that looked right for his WASR, for his Romanian. So when I look at a lot of WASRs, or I should say like 63s, you see two ways usually, and one is just amber shellac, which is probably the correct finish. But he wanted one that looked like the one in my video, and it had a little more red undertones to it. So all we did was wipe on some shellac, and it's really simple. I mean, I use a foam brush and just wipe it on like so. Paint it on, cover it, depending how dark or how well the wood is taking the stain. I may or may not leave it on a little bit to soak in, but for the most part this wood accepts stain pretty well, and we don't want it to get too dark and too muddy. So just really a quick coat like so, and then you can let it set up for a little while, soak in, whatever. We've already got 2 coats on this, so I'm just going to wipe it right off and kind of rub it in at the same time. And you can see it grabs the laminate glue and gives it those red undertones. The wood too, but what you see most of the time when you're talking whether it's Russian wood or in this case Romanian, it's that the glue that's the darker color, and that absorbs it too, and that's what gives you that two-tone effect, is just the different ways in which it absorbs it. So anyways, we just rub it in and we'll let it dry for a little while. If you see some imperfections at that point, you could do a little more sanding and or just steel wool it. But keep in mind, once again, that shellac is going to take care of a lot of imperfections. Like right here, we just have some kind of little battle mark. Remember, this is surplus wood, so it's it's going to have some things, but as long as it's not too huge, I don't know if you can see right there, those couple little dings. I'll show you later how those are going to go away, completely go away. So we've got the hand guards done. I did this other set. This set has the reddish undertones, and I did another set because similar like you see on some of the SAR 1, 2, and 3s, you get that darker brown Romanian, and I think what it is really is just really old shellac, and it turns a dark brown between oil and everything else. So we're kind of going for that look here. So we did a darker brown on this. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but we'll see once the shellac gets on, because the shellac changes the look too. We're going to use an amber shellac that'll bring in those amber and yellow tones to this. So it's going to deepen this quite a bit, and I think it's actually going to make things pop on the dark color a little better. Here's the stock. Came out, it's kind of a different look. You know, I don't know if I'm going to keep this one or sell it or what. I thought maybe change it out on mine and see how the dark wood looks. I always kind of liked it. It's different. You know, you see a lot of reds with Russian craze, you know. Some of them, those candy apple reds, holy shit. I wouldn't put that on my gun if my life depended on it. Candy apple, candy ass. How's that sound? No offense. If you guys like it, you like it. I get it. I almost did one once, but nah. So anyways, yeah, the brown's kind of a good look, and I think with the shellac, it's going to come out beautiful. Keep in mind, the darker the stain you use, if you use stain, it's going to enhance any dings. It's going to make them pop out. So that's kind of detracting to me, but this may make a really nice battlefield pickup look, like too nice probably, but we'll see how it comes out. I'm interested to see, because I haven't done one dark like this. So we're just going to let this stain set up and dry, and we're going to start shellacking. So see you in a few. Okay guys, so the stain is dried and we're ready to put on our first coat of shellac. Think of the first coat of shellac as like a sealer. You really can't get it on that thick. It really doesn't, I mean, I guess you could if you want to dunk it or something, but the wood absorbs a lot of it, the first coat. So you just put it on, let that first coat dry, and then start building from there. I use Zinsser Bullseye Shellac, the amber. I just find it flows better. I don't have to cut it as much. You can cut shellac with denatured alcohol. If it gets too thick on you, you can add a little bit, and it'll thin it out and help it flow a little better, so you don't get brush marks and things like that. Another tip with shellac is you never ever want to shake it, because it'll hold air bubbles, and air bubbles will, that's the one thing that'll be a giant pain in the rear with shellac, is air bubbles. You can see the amber color, it's got a nice honey tone to it. So that adds to the color, and you've got to remember that when you're putting your stain on. Whatever color stain you use, if you use it, the amber is going to affect it. Now there is clear shellac too, so you can use that if you're really trying to hold a certain color, but since what I do mostly is authentic stuff, so I use it in conjunction with any stain I may use to add to the color a bit. So, you know, this, we want to get more to that amber look. The red is just there to tint it, although we went a little heavier on this because that's what the customer wanted. So that's what we're doing. Anyhow, real simple. This brush is actually a little large for this, but it's fine. We'll just use a corner. I dip it pretty good and just 2-3 shakes to get off the excess, and then start at one end, and you want to go in full strokes all the way across and keep that wet edge. You don't want to be going over a spot 2-3 times. That's a no-no. That's when you start getting brush marks, drag marks, all kinds of stuff. It's just not good. So just try to keep that wet edge. Don't worry about runs, drips, errors, whatever. They will take care of themselves later. You can see I'm just using a foam brush, and I actually got some air bubbles in there. I don't know why. Normally I don't, but as you can see, they come right out, so not a big deal. First coat again is just to seal things up, and keep things, the rest of the coats are what matters. You can fix anything with shellac. One thing I'll say is don't let it build up in corners, because you're going to have to get rid of it later to make it look good and finished. You don't want big blobs anywhere, you know, gumming up where your butt cap goes on, where your sling goes in, stuff like that. You don't want that to happen. So anyhow, first coat, we'll let it dry, and we'll probably do 2-3 more coats, and then we'll start worrying about any, you know, thick spots or drips or anything we may have. I'm paying attention to filming this more than I am doing the stock, so I got a couple drips in here, but again, I'm not worried about it. I smoothed them out, and our friend Steel Wool will come to the rescue later. So we'll let this dry, and I'll show you once we have about 3 coats on here, okay? Okay guys, so we've, let's recap a little bit. We stripped everything, we sanded everything, so everything was cleaned, stripped, ready to go. And then we put 2 coats, actually I think 3, of shellac on everything. And I've already done some of the parts, most of them actually, but I saved this one because it shows it best. If you can see in the light reflections, all the ripples and whatnot in that, and imperfections. Hopefully that's showing it. When you get the light on it the right way, you can see the unevenness and things like that. Well, basically what we do is we use the shellac as kind of a filler. It makes for a thin but effective filler to take care of any imperfections and some of the real rough sanding marks that are done when these things are made and used over the years, and fills them in so we don't have to remove a lot of that wood. So you can see how glossy it is, and of course the higher the shine, the more imperfections it's going to show. We start out with 3/0 steel wool at this point, and really just kind of lightly buff it. And I start out by going over the whole thing pretty good. You know, 3/0 doesn't take much off at all. It's breaking that gloss, and it slowly knocks down any of the high spots. And when it does that, it removes the imperfections, and then the next coats go on really smooth and fill in any low spots. So once this is all smoothed out, the next step will be a couple more coats, and you'll see you're going to see a massive difference just from buffing the gloss off of this and evening some of this shellac out. If you give me just a few minutes here to knock all this down and smooth it out, and then when I'm done with this 3, I'll go to a 4, and that takes out any marks from this stuff and just puts a really nice buffed polish on it. The key to this is to have it very dry before you do this. If you start rubbing and you have any thicker spots that haven't quite hardened yet, it's going to be gummy and it'll start rolling up with this and you'll ruin it and have to start over. Or let it dry and buff it down, but you don't want to do that. So you're better off if you can, if there's any high spots or drips and you can dig your fingernail into them a little bit, you're better off letting it dry for another day or two. Shellac does take a while to dry and fully cure. Okay guys, we're back again and just wanted to show you where we're at here. So I guess we'll start with the dark one here. We left off where we showed you the 2 coats and we were smoothing it with the steel wool. So we've smoothed this one down, and as you can see, it's cut the gloss to kind of a satiny look. But in some cases, because this is surplus wood, obviously, we've got some little dings in the wood. I don't know if you can see it there. There's a couple little dings, again, it's surplus wood, so you're gonna have some issues. So what we do, you can kind of see it better here maybe. If you can, anyways. So what we do is we smooth out everything, any brush strokes, any drips, any divots, things like that, and we bring those first 3 coats down as low as we can. So then we put the next coat on like we have on the red stuff here, and you can see it then goes on super smooth, super glossy, absolutely beautiful. There's still a few brush strokes and whatnot, but it's filled in all the divots. And when we steel wool it down that final time, it'll come out in absolutely perfect, seamless, divot-free, mistake-free piece of wood. Simple as that. I mean, it's just beautiful. You could almost leave the gloss if you liked it, but there's going to be a few imperfections in it. It's just the way it is. So when you steel wool it, it's perfect. You can buff it to a little higher gloss using wax. Let me see if this is dry enough to grab here. I just put 2 more coats on this, and you can see the colors really developing. Look at that shine. I mean, it's incredible. But you can see just a couple marks in it, and those will all be gone on the final buff, and that'll be it. The end user can put their hardware on and put it on the gun, and it'll be absolutely flawless. So we took a really rough piece of surplus wood, brought it back to near perfect again, and it'll be kind of neat. Colors are cool between the red and the brown. I don't know which I like better, but this I'm holding off on because that's got to go out in the mail. But we'll finish this one up, get another couple coats on here and smooth this out. This one had some real dings in it and stuff, so we're getting rid of those, but it's going to be nice too. We'll see. Anyways, that's where we're at, and we'll finish up in a little bit. Gotta wait for it to dry. It's final dry. That shellac's really thick now, really deep, so it's gonna take a while to dry. I've been pushing it, really close to that edge of getting things gummed up, so I think we're gonna let this dry a solid 24 hours. We've done this all in 24 hours right now, which is really fast. Usually I wait longer, but we'll give this a full 24 hours, maybe a little more, and go from there. Okay guys, well, we've about come to the end of our project here, and where we left off, we were buffing the finish down with the steel wool in between coats, and we're pretty much done. Came out beautiful. What you didn't see off camera was just repeated buffings with the steel wool. Remember one thing guys, what we're doing here is a mill serp finish, not taking new wood and simply coating it. So we're dealing with dents, we're dealing with dings, we're dealing in some cases with wear marks from use, you know, like our hand guards here. They actually show, you know, the use of soldiers holding them and the wood wearing those hand marks into them. We try to hold on to all those and hold on to that character. And that's why we don't do a sanding, we do a finish of the shellac. So, for instance, in this hand guard, although the finish is absolutely perfect, you may see some ripples, and that's what we want. We don't want an absolutely perfect job like on a new one. We want a beautiful, nice, shiny, smooth, perfect finish, but underneath that finish, we want to preserve what this wood's been through and what it's done. And that's what we've accomplished here. So it was repeated, you know, wipings with the steel wool. In some cases, areas where we just rubbed and rubbed to get rid of or get the shellac finish down to where it was smooth and dings were filled, but it was a repeated wiping, shellacking, smoothing, shellacking, smoothing, shellacking. And that's what we come up with. So here's our stock. And it came out just gorgeous. Now it was a little more matte finish than this. Once you're done and you're happy with the finish you've obtained and how smooth or unsmooth it is, once you're happy with that, the finishing touch is to use a butcher's wax. Now this is just, it's made by Tree Wax, and it's a clear paste wax. It's used for hardwood floors, etc., and it works just fabulous. It takes that dull matte finish from the steel wool, and you just buff it in, hand buff it. That's the beauty of this, is everything is hand applied. Everything is brushed on. Everything is hand rubbed. The steel wooling, the wax, everything is hand done. And in my opinion, it adds that extra touch to it. You can tell a hand rub finish from a sprayed on finish. You know, we do stocks with modern spray finishes or even spray shellac finishes, and they come out flawless, but that's not what we're trying to do here. That we're trying to preserve every little bit of the history of this stock, and I think we achieved it here. These hand guards are just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, and they show, you know, the wear where a soldier was holding them, but yet to the touch they're smooth as glass, and everything, all that history is preserved. The top guards do look like brand new. I mean, they've got a little bit of history in there. You can see some of the grain and all. Came out really nice. The darker set intrigues me. Let me show you the two of them side by side. The darker set is really neat. And it actually shows more wear than the reddish set. You can see some of the marks in there, but yeah, it's all preserved, the dings in the top. And the handguard on that came out just beautiful too. I love the colors in that. So we might put this on my WASR, we'll see. Or maybe a viewer wants it, we'll see. Came out really nice. Anyhow, the wax finish that we showed, that's what you do at the end. And it's just like waxing your car. Hand rub it, hand rub it. The more you rub it in, the prettier it gets. And you can always put another coat on later. This whole process took about a week, and most of it was drying. Shellac stays, you know, very soft until it fully cures. So you have to make sure it's dry underneath, especially before you wax it. You don't want to seal it before it's completely dry. But we're there. There may be one or two spots, but they'll harden up. I have seen if someone takes them out and shoots them right away, You may get a little bubbling around the edges here from the heat on the handguard, but again, let it harden up and a little 4/0 steel wool and it's gone. So that is our journey on refinishing this stock. We're going to get this stock off, and I'd like to thank him for allowing me to do this for the video, and hope he likes it and sends us some pictures when it's finished. I'll tack them on to the end of the video here. So we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.